What's up? Welcome. Merry Christmas. Belated Merry Christmas to everybody watching this, whether you're a normal member of the Wrestling with Cards community on this channel, or whether you're just stopping by, maybe you're on Christmas break, you got nothing to do, checking out a random YouTube video, welcome. If you're watching this live, well, again, welcome. Drop something in the chat if you got a question, comment, anything like that, we can get to it. Or if you have, busy plans right now and you're watching this a year down the road, leave a comment below. We can, what do you think about this channel? What do you think about wrestling cards or anything else? This is a very random show. One of the reasons I wanted to do this today is I realized over the course of the last few weeks, I didn't have anything planned. Well, maybe, kind of. I did have some things planned. I just didn't get around to making the videos. So I didn't really want to skip a week. So I wanted to do a live stream because that was going to be the easiest thing for me to get from a time perspective with all the Christmas stuff going on and multiple other things. As you can see, we've got a new space that we are recording in. So more on that in a minute. But again, belated Merry Christmas to everybody. I hope that everybody had a really awesome holiday season. I know we're kind of, we're one day after, right? So we still got New Year's and all these things. But the day that Christmas is over, it's always kind of a letdown for me. It's always like a mental challenge because you have all this hustle and bustle of, going to Christmas activities and doing all those fun things and spending time with family and friends and whatever. And then it's just over. And then there's like, I know a lot of people probably do other exciting things, but for me, I'm such a Christmas fanatic that it's kind of a letdown afterwards. So another reason I want to do this video is just kind of talk about some other things. But if you're doing other Christmas things today, I hope you're having a good time. Again, the topics are going to just kind of be all over the place today because I have some bullet points I wanted to talk about, hobby related, personal related, all these other things. But if you have a question, comment, again, drop that in the chat. So let's start with the Wrestling with Cards Fantasy Football League. That's right. If you go back on the archives of this channel, you can see several videos that I've done where I think this is our third year doing the league, maybe second or third. I can't keep up at this point. But we've had a couple years of this league going. It's just a fun thing for wrestling card collectors to kind of come together and play a fantasy football league. But the difference here is that most fantasy leagues have like a trophy or cash prizes or a championship belt, which is a great idea. There's actually one right there. That actually is that's Ryan Leaf for any football fans out there. And that was a prize in a dynasty league that I ran that I think we stopped it in like 2019. We ran it for like 10 or 11 years. It was fun, but getting sidetracked. That may be what we do today. If you are looking for a wrestling card centric deep dive discussion, maybe this isn't the show for you. Maybe check out something on the archives because we're, again, bouncing around here today. But in the Wrestling with Cards Fantasy Football League, we put entry fees of wrestling cards. And then the first place winner gets the majority of the cards. They get to take their picks. Second place gets 2, I believe. And then third place gets 1, which is basically like their entry back into the league for the following year. So it's just a kind of fun thing that I put together. But it's been successful. Just wanted to highlight some results. The first place winner is Blaine Thornton. You may know him at BST Cards and Cuts on Instagram. Go check him out. Great dude. Congratulations on winning first place. He beat yours truly. So I took second place, which, fantasy is hard to win enough. And I'm glad I get a couple of cool wrestling cards out of this deal. So third place at the Promo Pete on X or Twitter. You guys probably see him around. Pete Lynch, he got third place, so he'll be back in the league next year, probably with that entry fee. If you guys are interested in joining the Fantasy Football League next year, and we won't be, I know it's a long ways away, but I like to plan things out, and we probably will be drafting sometime in like August, late August probably. So if you're interested and you'd like to be put on the waiting list, just let me know, and I can screenshot your name, put it in my spreadsheet with the rest of all of our league information. So enough about that. Let's move on to some, I guess, personal updates. Again, as you can see, new recording space. I recently moved and still try to get the same setup. You may see a few new things. We got the FMW Super Famicom game. We've got a Jeffrey the Giraffe figure that I got at a pop-up Toys R Us. Check out my Instagram if you want to see more about that. And we've got over there, that is a Cedar Fair Parks. I got that at Knott's Berry Farm. And, just kind of random collectibles. And that's just kind of what I've been doing amongst all this. I haven't been on social media a ton. You may see that the videos are cut down. Again, we'll touch on more of that stuff in a minute. But I've been just moving and still doing the hobby strong. I've probably more joy collecting and doing the things I want to do within the hobby than I ever have. which I can't say the same for a lot of people. And I seem to do one of these episodes where I talk about people dropping out and doing all these things. Again, we'll get into that. But, I've been adding just these random oddball collectibles. Like, again, go to my Instagram. I had a Knott's Berry Farm hotel key that they were gracious enough to let me keep. And it has Santa on it, which ties right in with my Christmas fandom. I've got some cool stuff from Disneyland that I've posted. Again, the Super Famicom game, which I've actually had for a while, but I figured, hey, let's throw this out as a cool display. And then Jeffrey the Giraffe, just constantly tying in nostalgia and the things that are fun. And again, that's what the hobby is all about, is having fun, not all this other, hoopla or whatever you want to say. Karrion Kross collection still going strong. Wrestling All Stars, it's slowed down only because of availability. Like if you're looking for some of the Wrestling All Stars cards signed, there's the typical names out there: Hogan, Jimmy Hart, Ted DiBiase. Like if you want those names, they're out there. But I think I've got about a third of maybe closer to a half of the set signed. So now I'm just trying to pick off those expensive ones or the rare ones that pop up. And that first off, trying to find them in the first place is hard enough. A lot of them are in private collections with people who are putting the set together, so they're not going to sell those, which I totally understand that. But there's just not a lot of those signed out there of guys like Iron Mike Sharp or Kerry Von Erich or Dusty Rhodes. Like the pop in the grand scheme of things might be let's just say they're 50 signed of like Dusty Rhodes. I haven't checked the pop reports or anything, not to mention how many are not graded, but they just don't pop up very often. People don't want to sell these things. When they do sell them, they go for a decent chunk of change. And, it just kind of depends on I was looking at the Dusty Rhodes, which Rod, if you know him within the community, I believe he's the one that won that I was looking at. And he got it. I don't know what the final price was, but at that same time, I was negotiating with somebody for a Karrion Kross lot that had a 1/1 in it. So I was like, okay, well, this is going to take top priority. And at the same time, I've been still buying collections. That's another thing kind of tying into what have I been doing since I haven't been putting as many podcasts out, or no podcast videos haven't been as, coming out as frequently. And that's just because I've been continuing to scale the eBay business, continuing to look at collections, buy collections from people, buy, sell, trade. I may start some consignment at some point. So if you're interested in that, let me know. But between that, holidays, again, the move into this new space, just a lot of stuff going on. And I just haven't had time to, the notes are made. I think I've got, I don't know, a month's worth of video notes done, but I just haven't had time to sit down and record, which is why I wanted to do the live stream today. So a lot of stuff going on. And, I just kind of had some reflections while I was moving about numerous hobby things and like what we do. Again, I touched on it, like driving what you do within the hobby and having fun with the collection that you like, and not trying to keep up with all kinds of, trends or new product. I know that's a thing. Like there are content creators and specific people on Twitter and all these things that they want to keep up all the time, just constantly looking for the new stuff, which if we don't have them, a lot of that stuff doesn't get mentioned. So they are a pivotal point in the hobby, but that's just not something that I watch all that content, but I'm personally not like digging through the weeds on some of that stuff a lot of times. So again, all this other live stuff is going on. Miami Mark, welcome. How was the eBay business in December? For me, because of what I do is lower end volume, it's constantly been good. Like the same amount of money is still there. The sales are still there. You just got to have stuff that people want at an affordable price and put together, package deals for them, being willing to accept lower offers, which we're going to touch on that too in a minute, down the road. I've had some interesting hobby interactions with people with comps and all of these things. But yeah, Miami Mark, it's been good, onwards and upwards. I don't see myself ever stopping selling on eBay. I just love it. I love all of the mundane tasks. People hate, I don't like to waste my, is it worth your time? Is it worth your time to sell $1.55 cards and, mess with the shipping and all this stuff? Well, it is definitely worth my time. My numbers have gone up more and more and more each year, even beyond the initial pandemic hobby boom that we saw. So Miami Mark, thanks for stopping by. If you got anything else, again, drop it in the chat, or if you're watching this in the archives, anything I've touched on, leave a comment below and we will get to it. So I had these reflections just on hobby content. And what actually brought this up is just the changing landscape of hobby content. And you could go a variety of different ways. There was during the pandemic boom, everybody wanted to start talking about, myself included. The reason why I started this channel is because there really wasn't anybody dedicated to just talking about wrestling cards and with the occasional oddball stuff. It was all just straight up sports. Or if it was wrestling, it was like breaking, or there maybe was some all-star stuff sprinkled in there. And I'm not a like pioneer or an expert or groundbreaking anything. It's just something I saw a void in, and I wanted to start a channel. So here we are. But as I was moving, I was listening to podcasts, and I was just kind of having these reflections on why certain content creators want to continue. Why did they start in the first place? And Card Talk Pod. If you guys are familiar with Card Talk Pod, they are done, essentially. They didn't say they're never coming back, but basically they're not. There's no plans in the future for them to keep recording. And it's the same thing with kind of like with Worlds Collide. Me and Tony, we had a great run. We built a great community, but it just got to the point of lack of time on both of our parts where, we had these other things that are taking other priorities over creating content. Not that creating content or the communities we built aren't any less important, but when, again, I'm moving this stuff. I'm moving into this new place, and all of these things are going on. I just kind of wonder, like, why do we do what we do? And certain things have to kind of take priority over others. So I was listening to a Card Talk Pod, and I've been listening to them since I think they were probably like 5 or 6 episodes into their first foray when I finally picked it up. And like most people, probably I wanted to check it out because they were talking about what's hot product in sports. Because not that I cared, like I'm a huge football fan, but I didn't care so much about what's going on in sports cards from a collecting standpoint as much as I did just general interest, pricing, flipping, product knowledge that I was just learning. Because that I still, my eBay store, I do a ton of wrestling, but I also do a ton of non-sport and sports and other random collectibles. So I was using this show as just kind of I did this a lot, like, and we'll get into that in a minute. A lot of hobby content came out, and I was just trying to consume as much as I could. But then you start listening to these shows, and you get to know these people, whether you agree or disagree with them, and they kind of become a part of your like weekly routine or your daily routine if it's a daily podcast or a daily YouTube channel. And then all of a sudden they're gone, and it like Card Talk Pod is going to leave a void for me. Like, sure, there's tons of other podcasts out there, but I've been listening to those guys forever. I feel like I got to know them. I learned a lot. I was entertained. And for them to just be gone again, I have to fill the void. So I kind of put myself into that perspective and like, why do people create content anyway? And I think one thing they do it is, for the views. Again, when or to pump up stuff potentially. During the pandemic hobby boom, everything was going to the moon. And everybody wanted to put content. What's the top 5 highest selling? What's the top 5 you should invest in? And while all of that content has a place, I think it's just kind of wore out its welcome for a lot of people that are consuming content in the hobby, no matter what sector you're in. And because, again, the prices have kind of fallen off on a lot of the higher end stuff. And I think people have lost interest in that kind of content, and they're digging for something else. There's still a place for it. Sports card investor, love them or hate them, there's still a place for that guy and his content, and it's really polished. It's good for what it is. And I followed his stuff for a long time, but then I just got tired of it as well. The other thing is like, making a business. And sure, like I finally got monetized on this channel, which thanks to you guys viewing this, thank you very much. And a lot of people are wanting to start a business off of YouTube or a podcast and get sponsorships and make money. And it's, I guess there's this, I'm not going to say a false, teaching or anything, but there's this, people think you could just start a podcast and quit your job or start a YouTube channel and you're just going to be able to buy these luxury cars off of your YouTube ads. And for some people that's true. But for most, especially if they didn't see the initial, I talked about the views, like, and the clout and the ego that gets tied up in this. I think a lot of them just drop off. And for the others, it's just, it's a creative outlet for me. Like I don't see myself ever just completely stopping this channel. I guess, it's wrestling kind of, so never say never, but I don't it's a fun creative outlet. I enjoy interacting with great people like Miami Mark on these live chats and in the comments on the archives. We get some rude comments every now and then, something else we'll touch on. But it's just a fun thing for me. And I think for a lot of content creators, it becomes not fun. It becomes a job, which sometimes this feels like it. I mentioned trying to get a video out every week. And while I have all of these notes and all of these ideas, it's the lack of time of executing those. And, you could say, well, Zhan, if you would just, focus on your community and put all of your time into this, you'd have it done. And that is true. But, if I'm moving an entire house to a new location, how am I, I didn't have time or the energy to sit down and shoot a video. But I'm going to continue to do this. And lack of, I think a lot of times the money's not there, the views aren't there, so people quit. But also going back to the Card Talk pod, maybe it's time. Like, it's just something run its course, and it's a lack of time on the creators. I talked about how me and Tony had a great thing going with Worlds Collide, and it just became a lack of time because of all the other life stuff we had going on. And we just had to pull the plug on it. And it may come back at some point. It may not. But speaking of communities and Worlds Collide, I guess the negative reaction to some of the things I do is it doesn't bother me from a personal standpoint. Like, I don't care what anybody thinks of me personally, or if you hate this, if you think this live stream sucks, that's fine. I don't care. I don't take any of that stuff personally. But again, when I'm putting this much time into it, and then you see, people on YouTube making comments like this video sucks, and those, which is fine. Maybe it does, but those people aren't putting out content. They're not taking the time to do it. Meanwhile, I'm trying to continue to fill that wrestling card space of just talking about wrestling cards and getting people motivated to collect and have fun and do whatever it is they want to do. You start seeing those comments or the negative reaction, and you wonder, like, why am I doing this? Like, why am I continuing to put all of these things in here, other than it being a creative outlet? And sure, I get minuscule pennies for ads on the videos on these things, but I think that's another reason why some people drop off, is they just why am I putting all this time into this content when it's just getting nothing but negative responses, or people are missing the point. And that's something else that I've seen, like, just within. I mentioned this, and I told you I'd skip around on topics. The wrestling card community is in this kind of weird space where there are so many great collectors and so many great people in there. But I get DMs, and people are like, what do you know about this card? How much is this? What's the comps? And I am more than happy to take the time out of my day to respond to those DMs or emails or, whatever it is, comments in these videos, if I feel like I can help somebody answer a question or make a better collection or whatever it is. But recently, I don't even remember the guy's name because he blocked me, but somebody on Instagram reached out to me. And they're like, what's the comp on this? So I couldn't find the exact price. So I gave them something that was similar. It was an AEW card. And I was like, well, this is kind of what these are selling for. This is maybe what you could get for it. And I don't even remember what he said. But basically, he was not happy with the eBay comps that I sent him. And I just feel like a lot of newer wrestling collectors that are coming in are slowly starting to worry more about, what am I getting back out of my break? What am I getting out of my hobby box? Why are these autos that I'm getting selling for $5 when I paid, $200 for $300 for a hobby box, whatever it is? And they're missing the point that, like, this is a whole episode unto itself, like, ripping wax being entertainment, and not necessarily expecting your rate of your return on investment being what you thought it would be from a rate perspective. And I just hope that I can continue, and others too, can continue to just, talk about why we're doing this in the first place, connections, nostalgia, collecting, things you connect with, not just from the, money aspect. And I run a business. I resell on eBay, but there's a card for everybody on there, whether it's 1990 Don Russ baseball or whether it's, AEW Metal Universe. There's a card out there for everybody out there, base set collectors, player collectors, super collectors, people that curate just really cool collections. In fact, I saw recently, I think it was on the Hobby Evolution Facebook group, where somebody went into an eBay store and bought all these baseball cards of a guy, and like each card was a picture of somebody like trying to catch a home run ball over the fence. So that's a really cool, idea to put a collection of something like that together. And those were all like dollar cards. It doesn't matter that whether they're worth, $1 million or $1, it was still important to the person that bought it. And I just want, obviously, value is important. If you hit something big, you can take care of, life stuff, buy a new car, maybe buy a bunch of PC items. Value is important, but I just feel like more people need to focus on just the collecting aspect, no matter what that is. I'm not telling anybody to collect a certain way. Just the fact of, connecting with the item that isn't, again, look at all these items behind me. I don't think any of them are really worth very much at all, but they all have some sort of connection to me. And that's the whole reason that I collect and I'm a hobby participant in the first place. I say all that to say that hobby content comes and goes. There's been so much that I would get excited for and it would just disappear. And I didn't really want to be that. I didn't want to be that person. I'm not that important. I don't think I am. I don't have an ego when it comes to this stuff. But that being said, I was thinking like, well, if I don't jump on here and do a live stream, like, are the people that watch my videos, are they going to be let down because I didn't provide them that free entertainment for that portion of the week? So I just wanted to kind of touch on a few things when it comes to the future of this channel and my content. Again, that we're not going away. I was trying to do one of these live streams a week. I don't know that that's going to happen, but I'm going to still try to do one video every Tuesday. Now, it could be a live stream. It could be an interview. It could be, a top 5. It could be the Wrestling Car Market Watch. I've got that thing ready to go, but I haven't had time to edit and do some extra things that I need to do. I've got that ready for November, but I haven't had time to put it out, and I apologize for that. But I just wanted to run through the Worlds Collide podcast. You're going to see the rest of the archive of that show being uploaded onto YouTube. I know there was somebody on my channel that said that's the laziest YouTube video he's ever seen. Cool. I don't care what you think, but there are people out there that like to put on YouTube and like to listen to the audio while they're doing something else. So I was thinking maybe they prefer YouTube over a podcast platform. So why not put all of the archives of the Worlds Collide podcast on this channel for anybody to listen to? So I'm going to keep uploading those. You may see those periodically. They're easier to edit. I don't have to do a lot on those. And maybe it comes back. I don't know. Keep your eyes peeled for a possible Worlds Collide reunion. Who knows? So the Wrestling with Cards podcast, that was started there's some things that I think that this live stream, this format, being able to answer questions in person, being able to just kind of talk about random topics, I think that's kind of something that's taken over the place of the podcast. So I would, for right now, the Wrestling with Cards podcast is on a hiatus. I may actually take some of those episodes and upload them on here if it's content that I feel is that somebody would be interested in, kind of like the Worlds Collide stuff. So that's on hiatus. And again, it's a lack of time. I feel like the live streams and the podcasts are a little bit more like I could just let loose on these philosophical things within the hobby, ways of thinking, ways of collecting, ways of reacting to community or trends or whatever it is. And again, it's just a lack of time, like trying to, produce a halfway decent video takes a lot of time, and to try to tie in a live stream, and which is, going to continue, but the podcast was just something else. And it doesn't take a lot of time to edit those, but it takes a lot of time to come up with a concept and record it. And by the time I'm done, I don't, it's like one or the other, and I want to keep YouTube going. So here we are. Again, no end in sight with this channel, but there are going to be some changes. Again, as I said, I think I'm going to go back to just doing one video a week with the occasional extra video. So you may see every Tuesday, I'm going to try. Here we are on Tuesday. At least I think that's what it is. It's just the day after Christmas to me. But I'm going to try to keep coming out with a video every Tuesday, and we'll see what happens down the road. Again, a lot of changes after the recent move. I'm continuing to up the eBay store. Maybe we go full time on that at some point. If that was to happen, then I would have more time to do more videos, more podcasts. So it's just kind of a lifestyle changes going on that's going to reflect some of these things. But again, every Tuesday, 6 p.m., or if I'm doing a live stream, we're going to do something like that. Occasionally, I may not get one out, but I'm going to try my hardest to continue to do that. The other thing is Wrestling with Cards on Patreon. There is a small group of people on there, great wrestling card collectors, that are paying to be part of that. And for that, I feel like I owe them. And I have whole video projects over there that are behind the paywall, not available on here. And again, if you're interested in that, you do not have to do that at all. It's just something extra. Like the money I get for Patreon, paid for this new camera, paid for my microphone, paid for this computer. I just dump it back into what I'm doing. So if you're interested in joining Wrestling with Cards on Patreon, links in the bio. But I've got some like video projects on there that they're a little bit more time consuming sometimes than some of the stuff I do here, definitely more than a live stream. But I feel like I'm letting them down. Like they're paying their money to be part of this, and I've promised to deliver specific content to them on that platform. And there's a couple of times where I just got to be honest. I feel like I've completely let everybody down because I haven't been able to get the time to put those things together. And it's not a lack of priorities. Like I'm not, going out and partying it up on the weekends and then being like, oh yeah, I forgot, I got to do this bit. No, it's not that. It's working another job. It's working the eBay store. Again, I totally just, like I said, I moved recently. So it's all these things that have just kind of gotten in the way. Miami Mark's got another comment. Do you think a collector is born a collector or turns into a collector? Both, actually. When I first got into the hobby and I was a kid, I didn't care about value. And, people will say, that's a lie. There are people out there that'll say, well, it's always been about value. And it has within a certain aspect. I started in the early 90s, right in the middle of junk wax era. And I think it was my dad, my uncle, family members. They just had baseball cards. And I think they were for me. I can't really remember. Maybe they were for them. But I just remember going through these things and being like, oh, man, these are athletes. They're professional. They do this for a living. They're larger than life on this cardboard. And then, I would get Ninja Turtles. I think it was Tops, right? And I would get those. I'm like, oh, man, I love the Turtles, and I've got cards of them. I want more of these. 87 Tops WWF. That was kind of my foray into wrestling cards as a kid. Still got some of that stuff from my original collection. I didn't care what it was worth. I didn't care about the condition. I wanted the cards because they were visually appealing. They reminded me what I saw on Saturday mornings. They reminded me what I would see on Saturday night's main event. I wanted to collect those things because it was a connection for what I was doing personally. One moment. I need to take a break. Now, I would say when I started, I would say early mid-90s, I got really into basketball cards. The Shaq craze, huge Dennis Rodman collector. I've talked about that. I loved Rip and Wax, 90s Bat Fleer Ultra Collector's Choice, that lower end stuff. Although I specifically remember buying some Flair occasionally. And for those of you who are some old school collectors, you probably remember Flair. It was like $5 a pack or something, which was unheard of. And if you didn't pull anything you wanted, you were skunked. And that learned my lesson early on about Rip and Wax. But it was a lot of fun back then. And when I that is kind of a little bit of a transition, because what I would do to answer your question, like Miami Mark, I was maybe born a collector, but then when I got into 90s basketball and Beckett magazine, I started looking at cards that I did not want for my PC as nothing but currency, which is what I do now with my eBay store. Like that is currency because most things listed in there are not part of my collection. Therefore, I'm more interested in the monetary aspect than the collecting. But let's go back to that 90s basketball analogy. I was looking for Shaq and Dennis Rodman, right? If I pulled those cards, not for sale. I don't care if it was 50 cents or $5. That was going into my collection. So I was still collecting, and what I was using the Beckett magazine for was to pull these commons, or if I pull a Jordan. Like I hated Michael Jordan. He was a nemesis of Shaq at that time and kept the Orlando Magic constantly from getting anywhere. Just always beating them in the playoffs, or, stopping them from even getting in the playoffs based on a record. But I would pull a Jordan. I would pull, a Nick Van Exel. I would pull Hakeem Olajuwon, Charles Barkley. And I knew people that collected those. So what I would do is I would take those cards, and I knew that I would look through these people's collections at school or at the LCS, and I would try to trade for the Shaq, for the Rodman. And I would use the Beckett as kind of a guideline, saying, okay, well, your Shaq card you have here for trade, it's $5 in value. I have these 3 cards that Beckett says is $6 in value. Let me trade you these 3 cards for this one Shaq card. And I would use the Beckett values from a trade aspect, when I was growing up, I don't know that I ever even sold a card to the card shop or to anybody else, like for a cash, consideration. I didn't do that. Everybody that I knew just used Beckett and the values for trade purposes. So that's kind of where that came along. And then I think that's kind of what's just stuck with me my whole life, because obviously collections change and you go in and out of things. But like my carrying cross collection right now, unless I meet a collector out there that needs something that I have a duplicate of, that stuff's not for sale. Wrestling All Stars, same thing. If I've got a duplicate, sure, yeah, I may sell or trade that, but I don't really care about what any of that stuff's worth because it's part of my collection. That being said, everything behind me and thousands of cards you can't see on the other side of the screen here, that's all inventory. That's all stuff to buy, try to feed that money into buying more equipment or, lights, software, hosting, whatever it is, buying other PC stuff, paying bills, running it as a business. And I think that, I guess I've kind of jumped around here, but it's a great question. Again, the answer to your question is both, because if you're there are so many people out there when you just start talking to people that are diehard collectors, but they're not afraid to sell stuff. Now, the stuff they sell maybe isn't their PC stuff, but they're not afraid to sell and they have a business acumen to them. There are other people that don't own a single card and like their inventory that they have for their business is their PC. That's an interesting way to look at it. That's not something I do, but I can see the kind of validation behind it and why someone would be interested in doing it. Then there are the people who like they don't care about anything collecting and all they want to do is just sell stuff. Well, I mean, do you think that the average, go to your local restaurant, go to Walmart, go to Lowe's, Home Depot? I've been there a lot lately. Any of these businesses, the people that come and pick up your trash, like, do you think that their sole purpose in what they do is because they're so passionate about picking up your trash, or they're so passionate about helping you check out your groceries? Probably not. They're probably doing it because it's paying the bills. And the hobby is no different. The hobby is a business. Whether you're Fanatics, Panini, random guy on eBay, random guy on whatnot, it's okay that you treat this as a business. Some people do. But I think my complaint, and I'm never going to say that money is not important within the hobby. Clearly it is. But my complaint more so is with all of the newer wrestling card collectors coming in. There's a passion behind it. You can see a lot of them are gravitating to these talents that aren't a Hulk Hogan, aren't an MJF, aren't a Rock. And they're so like enamored with collecting that person that they have a connection with or that they like to watch on TV. Or maybe it's kind of like the Karrion Kross thing. I love Karrion Kross, awesome athlete. Well, I have that connection with him. It's cool to interact with him on Twitter with the collection. That's been fun. But somebody may say, well, he's a jobber. He's doing jobs on SmackDown. He's not going to ever be that upper echelon WWE talent. And my response is, I don't care, because the talent has that. I have that connection with the talent. And more importantly, when you get to a point in a super collection where it's as big as my Karrion Kross collection is now, the collection overrides anything else. Like it becomes the rainbow. Getting, how many copies of a base Prism card can I get from just trade or, stuff that nobody wants? Like that becomes the chase, not the money. And I think that a lot of people there's a lot of people who have kind of seen that. And you can go even into sports. Like you may say, well, Zhan, this is nothing new. Wrestling cards are just experience when sports cards have experience for years. That is true. But even like you can go, if you find the right communities, you can go into sports cards groups and find like the first person I ever really remember doing this, and forgive me, I don't remember his name or username or anything like that, but he's a Cecil Fielder super collector. Like nobody out there is collecting Cecil Fielder, and this guy is going after everything and tracking them on a trading card database and going, and then you've got Bo from the 1 Million Cubs Project, which you can find my interview with him on the archives of this channel. Make sure to check out his content too. It's great stuff. Like Bo does such a great job of doing a live stream like what I'm doing right now, but better, and bringing more random topics and a lot of food talk, a lot of Casey's Pizza talk. Maybe we need to get more of that on here. I don't know. I love Casey's Pizza. That being said, the way, he's collecting 1 million Cubs cards, and you're maybe asking, why would somebody collect 1 million Cubs cards? Like, what is the point? It's because it's his collection. He doesn't care about the value. He's going after a project working on it and trying to complete that. And I think that's the same thing with most regular collectors. And understanding, like, if you, I could just probably do a whole episode on ripping wax and like expectations. And I think people are getting killed on wax, and you're not always going to bat 1,000 on wax. Clearly, if you look at it from an entertainment perspective. In fact, I almost bought some blasters yesterday. I was like, man, how cool would it be to get? I've seen a lot of clearance blasters at Walmart lately. How fun would it be to just rip some Prism football or Prism baseball or Metal Universe, whatever, any kind. I don't think my local Walmart has hardly any wrestling, if any. But how cool would it be to just kind of have a fun Christmas rip? But I ended up not doing it. But I was looking at it thinking, this is just fun. Like, it's fun to rip cards and see what you get. One moment. So ended up not doing that, but I think there's just this misconception that people are looking at ripping wax as it's gambling. Like, it is what it is. Let's not sugarcoat it. You have the potential to get a really big card or to add something to your PC. You also have the potential of getting nothing, essentially. Like, it's not a zero-sum game, but most people are not going to be excited about hitting a silver or a green and then a bunch of base cards. And that may be what you buy, or if you get some retail wax. But I don't know. I just hope that a lot of people will start taking the information that myself and some other content creators, I'm going to touch on that too. I want to shout out some great content creators. I just hope that people are taking what we're doing and the variety within wrestling cards and applying it to what they want to do. And the most important part of that is to just have fun, because if we're not having fun accumulating, having fun hoarding, I know some people hate when I use that word, but if we're not having fun doing whatever it is we do in the hobby, whether it's buying, selling, trading, super collecting, set collecting, just being a dealer, just having an eBay store, just creating content, like whatever aspect of the wrestling card hobby you're in, whether you're just a collector and you don't ever sell anything, no matter what it is, it's this ecosystem. It takes all of us to keep going. And so, Miami Mark, thanks for that. And we have another comment from him. Cards were currency in my childhood as well, but I feel like most of us had $1 to $5 cards Beckett-wise. That is true. If one of us had a $20 card with that arrow going up, that would be a monster. Yeah, and I remember having some Shaq and Dennis Rodman cards that were in the like $15, $20, $30 range. I still didn't want to sell them. Now, I was a kid then. I didn't have responsibilities of paying a mortgage, paying taxes, paying car insurance, right? We all have that now. So I could see where if somebody has a card and they're able to sell that for a decent amount of money, they would want to go ahead and part with that, because maybe it's their job. Maybe that extra money, we just came out of Christmas. Maybe that card that they sold provided that money to then provide gifts for their family. Maybe they were able to feed some people, have some people over and give a good Christmas gift with the sale of that card. So selling cards isn't evil, right? Looking at cards from a value perspective, nothing wrong with that. But when the focus becomes so much on that and there's no end collector at the end of the day, I just kind of have to throw my hands up and wonder, like, what's the point, right? Carmi is in the house. Merry Christmas. Happy. Thanks to you, man. Same to you. Thanks for stopping by. Thanks to everybody for watching this. So kind of closing out, wanted to give some shout outs to some other great wrestling card content creators out there. So I say that to say this. If I miss a week on this, I apologize. I do not mean to let you down. I'm going to try to keep these going as much as possible. Try to respond to all DMs on social media. That's another thing, I've kind of, I'll touch on this with WTC in a minute, but I kind of had to take a step back, and, I'm still on social media and I'll answer DMs and I scroll through every, I'll take 5 to 10 minutes a day on social media, which from a marketing standpoint, I know I should do more, but it's just such a time suck, and it messes, like, the stuff that I see on there. I'm just like, I don't have time for this. I don't have time for the bickering over, oh, what's a rookie card? And people still talking about that. Oh, did Rock really sign these sticker autos? I don't care. So, I mean, I do, but I don't. And so I just don't spend a lot of time on social media, but you can still reach out to me on there. So again, Wrestling with Cards on YouTube is still going to continue. Every week we're going to do our best to have something. That being said, if I'm unable to do a live stream, if I'm unable to put out some new video or podcast for an old podcast episode or something, I wanted to shout out a few content creators that I'm sure many of you already know. But if you don't, Some are old, some are new, doing great things out there. So obviously, we're starting with WrestlingTradingCards.com, WTC TV. Check out WTC on YouTube. I think, other than Ryan, I've had many of the people who have made an appearance, which we got to get Ryan on the show. I've had many of the people who have been on that channel, on this channel, and since Adam and Ryan started doing stuff and Paul started doing some different things. And I wanted to touch on, there's an episode that it's a couple episodes back. I apologize, I don't remember which one it is, but Tony was on there, and Tony basically said he's got to take a step back and focus on, the priorities in his life and what the hobby is to him. And that's kind of where I'm at. Like, I love doing this, but sometimes you're just like, I got to take a step back. And again, I don't mean to let you down. And sure, I'm going to lose maybe some subscribers because if I miss a week, or maybe I lose the revenue from the ads. Oh well. Sometimes other things just take priority over and the time that we spend doing this. But WTC on YouTube, fantastic, onward and upward for those guys. Lots of new faces, lots of different types of videos and different types of collectors on there. So make sure to check that out. Card Foundation podcast. Do I really need to give these guys an intro? If most people, the one thing that they have done so well is drive new collectors into the modern product. They've admitted that they aren't as into vintage, and there's nothing wrong with that. But what they're doing is providing a platform and providing information and perspective on modern products, releases, checklists of, as soon as they're coming out, breaks with what they're doing with Filth Bomb. And it's just great stuff. Had those guys on the channel. You can check out my interview with them in the archives of this. But Car Foundation Pod, No Shui Out podcast, relatively new. You can check out my interview with Shui Nostalgia in the archives of this channel. And I believe we talked about this. Like I think we mentioned him wanting to start a podcast, and he's finally got that up. And it's definitely like, I'm like, wow, this is different. This is a different perspective. This is a different sound. And that's what I like. If somebody's just doing the same old, crazy thumbnails like that. I just pulled this. What is, the top 5 up and down in the market? Like, there's a place for all that. But when I see somebody doing something different, I want to shine a light on it because I think it stands out in the crowd. Maybe it's not getting as much views. Maybe it's not as popular as some of these other things. But it's good information, good entertainment. So check out the No Shui Out podcast wherever you listen to this. And check out my interview with Shui Nostalgia on the archives of this channel. Squared Circle Relics podcast, of course. Those guys have been doing a great job for a while now. Collectawrestlepalooza, Tom over on his YouTube channel, doing some different things. Definitely go check out what he's doing. Talking cards, talking stuff about the boardwalk when he went to California recently. And that's another thing. Like I've got a Knott's Berry Farm, which you're going to enjoy this video whenever it comes out, but it's going to take me a while to put it together. I've got some footage from Knott's Berry Farm, and I found some interesting wrestling tie-ins. So stay tuned to that whenever that comes out. But Tom is doing some different things. Like, he's not just talking wrestling cards and this card is worth this and this is the most popular. He's doing all kinds of great things. So make sure to check out his channel, Collectawrestlepalooza, with the best intro song and the best jingle in the hobby, bar none. I don't care what anybody says. Make sure to check that out. And lastly, one of the newer shows that's come out, check out Wrestling Card Alliance on YouTube and search for The Run-In. This is a new show featuring 3 really great, well, there's been multiple people now, but all the guys involved, Graham and everybody's just been amazing. And basically they present 3 questions and then they debate it and try to answer those questions for the community, which is really good. We get some interaction here doing live streams, but this is basically just me talking. So if you're getting multiple people's perspectives on things, I think that's pretty beneficial. And they cover all kinds of topics. And I don't listen to I don't know if there's a podcast version out, so you may reach out to them and see about it. Or you could just search wherever you listen to regular podcasts, search, was it Wrestling Card Alliance? Or you could just search The Run-In. I think there's 3 or 4 episodes out right now at the time of recording this. So definitely check that out. And I say that because, we have a community of collectors, but there's also a community of content creators, and we all try to help each other out. And if there's a time where maybe one of these guys is not putting something out, you can come check out stuff in my archives of this channel or their archives, vice versa. I told you there's going to be some changes with the content and the scheduling that I put out, and maybe not as much. It's going to keep coming out, but let's say I miss a week, right? Go check out Collectawrestlepalooza. Go check out the run-in. Like there's, I guess people have finally just kind of answered the call that I've put out. We need more wrestling card content creators. I don't care what it is. Breakers, going set by set checklists, giving hot takes and opinions. Maybe it's the market talk of wrestling cards that people like. Different variety of things. And if I can't do it, maybe someone else can. If they can't do it, maybe I can. And we just work the whole point of doing this. Continue to put out information to just help collectors and navigate them. Maybe they don't like my opinion on something, so it changes the way they collect. That's great. That's what the point of this is. Not to say I'm an expert, not to say I'm right about everything, but just to make people think and make people consider what the time that they spend in the hobby and what that value is to them with the things they collect and connect with. So make sure to check out all of those. Cracker Wax, thanks for ongoing efforts. Great content this year. Appreciate all you do for the wrestling card community. Happy holidays. Thank you as well. I hope you have a great new year, and I thank you for stopping by. Hopefully in the new year, you're going to continue to join us in this great channel, and hopefully we'll see you in the live chat on a future live stream. So that's pretty much it. I just wanted to kind of do a random hobby hangover, Christmas hobby hangover. Christmas is over. I'm kind of down about it, so I wanted to just get on here, and I've been holding these thoughts and these notes for the last 2 weeks as I was moving and with Christmas being over. And, I could go on and on. Like I said, I could do a whole episode or live stream probably. And maybe we do that, just talking about the why are people so obsessed with ripping product? Maybe we do that next time. I don't know. But thank you guys for stopping by, whether you're watching this live. Miami Mark, Carmi, Cracker Wax, thank you guys. Thanks for watching in the archives if you're checking this out a year from now. Let me know in the comments if you have any questions, thoughts, concerns. If you think I suck, hey, thanks. Thanks for taking the time to check out the video. If you think I suck, but you still love wrestling cards, make sure to check out all of those other content creators that I kind of shined a light on. Non-wrestling content, make sure to check out Bo 1 Million Cubs. He does great things. Make sure to check out Mike Summer. Is it Wax Pack Hero? Sports Card Minute? I can't remember the name of the podcast, but I'm subscribed. Make sure to check out Brett McGrath, Stacking Slabs, also great content. And there's more out there. But I thank you all for your time today. Seriously, thanks for stopping by. The fact that anybody takes the time out of the day to listen to anything I have to say and tell me I suck or tell me they agree or just tell me that I'm bringing some sort of entertainment or value or information, thank you so much. That's the whole reason I do this. But I hope you guys have a great day. Make sure to check out all the links in the show notes for any of the other ways you can help show your support for this channel or anything else I've got going on. Reach out to me on social media if you've got comments, questions, concerns. But until the next video, I will see you there.